Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today I get to do something that I love doing more than anything else on my YouTube channel. And those of you that have followed me for any length of time already know this. And that is to show you guys a very talented but relatively unknown knife maker. Now we're going to be taking a look at JK Knives today. This is the Dwarf model. I'm just going to unzip it and whip it out. The reason why I love this knife so much, not only because it looks great and it feels great and it's a cool modern design and it's a flipper and it's a great size, it's not all that. It's the fact that here's a guy who lives in Poland who took a major leap and just decided one day, I'm going to go ahead and make folders instead of just fixed blades. And this is his very first model. He just started making these. And it came across my feed one day because I follow PolishCustomKnives.com. I follow their Instagram. And being a Polish maker, Polish Knives, PolishCustomKnives.com obviously deals with primarily, or exclusively, I should say, Polish knife makers. And they had gotten one or two of his dwarves in, and I looked at it and went, holy shit, that's cool. So I immediately went over to his page. I started following him. And I started looking at the work he was doing, and I was really blown away. It reminded me a little bit of a Shirogorov F95, the old Turtles, the F95Ts. But obviously, there's no similarity there. It's just the fact that it's a kind of a 3D textured titanium frame lock is what made me think of that. And when we get down and show it close up, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I saw that. I saw the hand rub satin blade. I saw the overall shape and size of it and went, wow, that's a pretty damn cool knife. So he and I started talking, and I was able to order up one of these for myself. And I got to tell you, since the day it arrived, I have been enjoying the living shit out of this knife. They're not overly expensive. They're not too terribly difficult to get a hold of. I've had to hold making this video for about a month now because he actually messaged me and went, okay, I'm out of knives right now. I need to make some knives before you put a video out there and people see it. Because I only put up a handful of pictures on my Instagram, and all of the knives that he had and all the knives that PolishCustomKnives.com had, they all sold out instantly. So thank you guys for paying attention to what I post. And I'm glad that you guys got as excited about this as I did. But today we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into it. We're going to see why I love it so much. I'm going to give you guys some close-ups and see if you like it as much as I do. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of neat little features built into this knife. It's very slim. It's very compact, and it's very easy to carry. And one of the things that really startled me, I was not expecting it, was just how slim this is. I don't know, it looked beefier and bulkier and thicker in the photography that I had seen. And maybe it's just that I wasn't paying attention. Maybe if I go back and look at the pictures again, I go, oh yeah, I don't know how I missed that. But when I got it, I was blown away at how slim this knife is. And honestly, there's certain knives I don't want slim. And I didn't think that I would like this slim. I looked at it and went, wow, I'm like, it's gorgeous. It's really well made, but, you know, am I really going to enjoy carrying this? So I threw it in the pocket that day and I started carrying it. And very quickly I became an even bigger fan of it. So one of the things that I appreciate doing on my channel more than anything else is bringing out a maker that's relatively unknown, that maybe you haven't heard of yet, and you get a chance to get a really fantastic knife from a really good knife maker who doesn't have an intensively long wait on their books, or their books are closed or something like that. And it gives you the opportunity to buy into that maker before perhaps maybe they make that one all-star knife that, you know, ends up being Knife of the Year at Blade Show or some crazy shit. And next thing you know, they're at such a high level that there's no way you're ever going to own one of their knives. And I've been very fortunate to be involved with some of the knife makers that did have that meteoric rise very quickly and got in early on their books. And I'm still very thankful for that. So this is going to be your opportunity to do the same thing, to try something new, to get into a nice, really nice, full custom knife for just about the price that you would pay for a mid-tech knife from almost anybody else. And as you get to watch this maker grow and you get on his books for future models that he introduces, you can always look back at your dwarf and go, I got in before anybody knew who the hell he was. So let's go downstairs, take a quick look up close and discuss this knife in detail and see if you're as excited as I am. Okay, as I mentioned, one of the things that I really enjoy doing more than anything else is bringing out really cool custom knives by makers that you might not have heard of. The best news about this is if you fall in love with this knife like I have, it's actually available. You can actually get one, at least at the time of this upload. So if you go over to PolishCustomKnives.com, they do have a couple of these in stock in different finishes. I think one of them had a bead blasted finish on the blade. Mine is the hand rub satin. And you can also set up custom orders as well. So you can figure out how you want to do it. Basically, you're looking at around $700-ish buying through the dealer. And honestly, for the money, you're getting a good, solid investment. I mean, look at the beauty of that blade. Look at the machining that's here on this handle. It looks fantastic. JK Knives is, I'm going to butcher this because I am a typical American with a typical American tongue, and we are not very good at pronouncing foreign names. I'm going to do my best, though. The maker's name is Jaroslav Kus. And what he's done here is made a leap for the very first time in the folders. He had made a few fixed blades, did very, very well with them. And he says, you know what? I really want to try my hand at making a folder. And this is his very first one. I don't mean this is the very first knife that he made, but this is the very first model, the Dwarf. And I got to tell you, I think he just knocked it out of the park. It looks and feels just fantastic. Let's go over the specs very quickly. Your blade length is 3.15 inches, so it is on the small side. M390 hand rub satin blade at 126 thousandths thickness. So it's a slim blade, but it's thick enough to still be stout. I really don't have any worries about damaging this blade or bending the tip or anything. It's a nice reinforced tip the way that he ground this. And he's also showing a 61 Rockwell hardness on this as well. So he's at the top end for M390. Should have very good edge retention. M390 is just a fantastic steel being used by makers all around the world. Now your frame, pocket clip, and back spacer are all going to be 6AL4V titanium. And you've also got, and this is a feature that I absolutely love, there are people out there, of course, that may never use a lanyard. They don't want a big old hole or a cutout done on their knife. It breaks up the look of the knife. But for those of us that do sometimes like to have a lanyard, I'm picky. Some knives I do, some knives I don't. You've got the lanyard post sitting right back here, nicely hidden with the back spacer cut around it. So it's going to be very easy for you to use, tie one on if you want to. And if you decide to go lanyard-less, then you've not broken up the design at all with a big giant hole. The stop pin inside is going to be a tungsten carbide stop pin, so should never have to worry about that wearing or anything like that. Titanium pivot with multi-row bearings. I love the flat pivot face on the opposite side. You know, I kind of think I would have built this a little backwards. I think I would have put the flat pivot on this side and the pivot screw on the back side. That's just me, you know, everybody's different. Very, very low profile flipper with really strong jimping. The jimping in there is cut really, really sharp. And I don't mean that it's going to damage your finger or anything. I just mean there's a lot to grab onto there. There's a lot of traction there, which you need when you have such a teeny tiny flipper tab. And I had discussed small flipper tabs when I was doing the Vero engineering video. And it's got to be done a certain way. if you're going to go that low profile, and this was done very, very well. So it's out of the way. It doesn't really protrude at all. And when the knife is open, it follows the same shape as the handle. I think it's a very, very, very well done. There is your lockup. We'll show the blade centering as well. Perfectly centered blade. Now mine doesn't have a very strong detent. It's kind of soft. It works just fine. It flips just fine. But it's not going to give you that rocket ship flipping like some others would. Now, I did talk to him about this in private message, and I said, you know, there's for a lot of people in North America, you know, U.S. and Canada, that buy flippers. In a lot of cases, they want a very strong detent for a very strong, very fast flipping action. I said, you might want to consider having an option, you know, so when somebody orders from you, you can say, hey, do you want my standard kind of medium detent, or do you want a stronger detent? And people will generally know what they want. Let's give you some quick size comparisons here. A lot of people have the Varga VBR. So here it is up against the VBR, butt to butt, as all things should be. VBR is a little bit longer because you have a 3.5-inch blade. The handles, however, yeah, you know, I was going to say they're fairly comparable, but they're not. If you put them pivot to pivot, the handle of the VBR is also considerably larger as well. So as perfect of an EDC size knife as the VBR is, I think the Dwarf is going to serve some other people even better. And then we'll break out the Ziba S5 chess. Can't recall if I've done a video on that one. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. And you see it's a very similar overall size profile with a slightly longer blade and slightly longer handle. So there are your two comparisons very quickly on that. Now let's get to showing just how gorgeous this knife is. The main reason I fell in love with this was the machining. Take a look just at the clip. Nice straight clip. The bevels that are milled into it go beautifully with the overall design flow of the handle. I love when makers take the time to design a handle, to design a pocket clip that's going to match up with the handle or match up with the blade, but in some way match up with the overall design of the knife. And he did a fantastic job. Let's see here. You do have a steel-on-steel interface because there is the screw to hold in the lock bar insert. Nice milling done throughout the entire lock side, so it's not boring on this side. And oh, look at that hand-rubbed satin blade. Very, very nicely done. Very clean lines. Very high grit too. I'd say that's probably 1,000 or 1,200 grit. So he paid a lot of attention to making that as pretty as he can. There is the edge. Show you the plunges now. Plunges are nice and symmetrical, gently sweeping in. And then we get to this side. Again, beautiful hand rub on that satin blade. And then back again to the machining on the handle. And I love the fact that he puts his maker's mark at the butt end of the handle, so the blade is completely sterile. There are no markings whatsoever on the blade, which I believe is the best way to present your product. I think it's much more handsome that way. The only marking there is right there on the back, which as we close this, you'll see right there, it just says M390. There we go. And that's it, the only markings. And it's cleverly hidden away. It doesn't distract from the design of the knife at all. My camera just does not want to focus today. There we go. For me, a lot of this attraction definitely is going to be in the machine work. I love the step design. So he's cut away a whole bunch of titanium here, cut away a little less here, and then you have obviously what was the top surface. So you have 3 levels of machining that have been done here. Beautifully, beautifully done. Very clean look, very futuristic, and very sleek overall. I love the sleek profile of this knife. And it reminds me There's a little bit of, like I mentioned in the intro, there's a little bit of Shirogorov there. If you remember back to the F95T, the Turtle. Obviously, it doesn't look anything like it, but it's the same type of machining that we were attracted to when we all jumped on the Shirogorov bandwagon. It reminds me a little bit of a GTC, a Gus Sakini as well. It's got that flavor to it, yet his design is all his own. It doesn't exactly look like anything else out there. I dig the blade shape as well. It's still got a useful tip. It's got a lot of edge for cutting, a little bit of curvature there, so it makes if you're rock cutting something, it's going to make it a little bit easier. I think overall, it's a beautiful design that a lot of people are going to appreciate for its slimness. It's going to be very, very easy for you to carry. The one thing I didn't do was weigh it, so let's go ahead and do that now. As I run over for my scale because I was ill-prepared once again. Nice smooth action there. Turn that bad boy on and let's see how much it weighs. Dun, dun, dun. 3.8 ounces. That is absolutely going to be in EDC territory. Just for comparison, the VBR is heavier at 5 ounces, and the Ziba is heavier at 4.8. So I think this is going to be a great option for those of you that are looking for an everyday carry that's going to be lightweight. It's going to be easy for you to carry. The big part, again, is the slimness. Now, it could be even a little bit off-putting, because if you have, large hands like I do, you're going to have to find a way to comfortably hold and flip the knife, because it is so skinny. It is so slim that I find myself every now and then it kind of wants to move in my hand as I'm going to flip it, just because of the shorter length and the fact that it's so thin. But man, oh man. And again, there's the smoothness of the action. This one is definitely going to be a light switcher. You cannot push button this at all. It doesn't do anything. The flipper tab in relation to the pivot is going to dictate how you're going to flip it. And this one is just a little bit behind the pivot, so it is going to be a light switch. And you see it opens nice and fast, nice and smooth. I've actually been carrying this quite a lot. I've had this for about a month and a half. Could be even closer to 2 months now at this point. I wanted to wait until he had a chance to make a couple more knives. Number one, to keep refining his process, because this is a very early model. And number two, to have a couple knives made and sent over to PolishCustomKnives.com so that at least a couple would be available. Because what I try to avoid doing is showing you things that you cannot buy. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable. And a lot of times I do like to get one-off knives made for me that you may not be able to get. However, when I'm bringing out a new maker, or at least new to you maker, and you get excited about the knife, I really like for at least a couple to be somewhere that you're able to get your hands on, or for the maker's order books to be open so that you can place an order. And he will do both. There are a couple of knives available, and you can also message him through Instagram and place an order as well. And that's what I did. Now, a lot of times I get my knives directly from PolishCustomKnives.com when I find a Polish knife maker that I really, really, really dig. And what he did was he went ahead and he made this for me, sent it straight out. And I actually got it fairly quickly. I think it only took like 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, from the time I ordered it to the time that he had it finished, completed, ready to go, and then shipped out. So I think that's extraordinarily reasonable for a custom flipper these days. So that's about it for me. As far as my personal thoughts about the knife, like I said, I've carried it a lot. It's not a knife that I got in and went, well, it looks really good. I'll go ahead and make a video because it doesn't have any flaws. There's no issues with it. I'll just make a video. This is one I've enjoyed carrying and one that I'm going to continue carrying. And again, it fits the same purpose that the VBR does. And for it is more money, obviously, because this is a custom knife. But it fits the same sort of need where I have a lightweight, compact knife, but it is so much more lightweight and so much more compact than that, that this is far easier to carry. It was still very warm weather here in Texas when this arrived, and I'm wearing, shorts and a t-shirt. Pop this bad boy in the pocket, and it was super, super easy to carry. I barely even noticed that I had it on me, to be perfectly honest with you. And you know what? It's sexy. It's one of those designs that looks so futuristic, almost robotic, that when you pull it out to show somebody, they're looking at it going, man, I really haven't seen anything like that. That looks super expensive. And yeah, it's not cheap, but it's certainly not expensive when you compare it to other knives that may have similar materials and similar work that's been done to it. I think it's a solid price point. I'm not going to say it's a great value. I think at like 500, you'd be like, oh my god, it's a killer value. But at that, because they're like 650 to 7, when it changes kind of day by day with the exchange rate, from whatever money they use in Poland to U.S. dollars. So just call it 700 to make life easy. And I feel it's a solid value. I think it's worth every single penny. And it is one of the knives that I not only love because it is a custom, but I love because it's such a great carry knife. It just works. It's not too tiny. There's not a lot of knives where I'll go down this small. 3 inches, I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I've done that now that I have that Vero Mini Synapse. I like that for certain things. But I'm generally a 3.5-inch blade guy. 3.5 to 3.85 inches is my sweet spot. But the times that I choose to carry a smaller knife, I mean, a lot of times I reach for my Ziba because it is significantly smaller than most of the knives in my collection. But now I have another really fantastic option. Funny enough, they're both Polish. Mike's Polish. So anyway, my personal thoughts, I think it's great. I love the fact that it's slim. It's very lightweight for a full titanium frame lock. I like the bead blasted finish up against the hand rub satin. I also believe that a full bead blasted blade would also look very good. Again, that sleek, futuristic, cool kind of design that I'm into. And I think overall, it's kind of hard to beat because any knife that you look at that is going to remind you of this type of style in a custom is going to cost you more. You're right. You're a couple of dollars more than what a Shirogorov F95T would cost you right now, but it's a mid-tech, and they also actually it's a production knife at this point. To get a full custom with this kind of machine work, with the hand rub satin, and the way this is laid out, I do truly believe it's a good value, it's a good price, and because it's so well made, this is going to be one of the jewels in your collection. So I'm glad you guys came in here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned. I'm going to pop up a couple little things here for you to click on, some other videos and playlists and all kinds of cool stuff. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you get a chance to, visit my Patreon. It's patreon.com/JimSkeletonKnives. And feel free to support the channel if the mood strikes you. And I'll be doing the November giveaway very, very shortly for my Patreon members. It's going to have some really cool shit in it. So with that, guys, I'm out of here. And I'll catch you on the next video.